Good morning and welcome back to Huku Austria, your number one diaspora YouTube channel with your number one host, MercywaAustria. So today I am in the moods of giving you some story, my experience as a black person living in Austria, the culture shocks, and just what I've seen in the past decade where I've been living here. So get yourself some tea, get yourself some wine, because this is going to be interesting. Or at least I think so. So, some of the culture shocks I've experienced is, the first one is going that 50-50. So the thing is, when you go to a restaurant or when you go for a coffee date, please carry your wallet, carry some money with you, because in Africa or in Kenya, you are used to, when you go mostly for the first date, like the man is going to pay, like 99.9%, the man will always pay. And when you come here, it's not a guarantee. Some men will even expect you as a woman to pay their bills on the first date. I'm like, what? And yeah, it does happen. So what I do, or what I've done in the past, is you just prepare your money, and even the waiters, they will, when it comes to times for paying, they will ask you, getrennt oder zusammen, meaning like, are you paying together or everyone is paying for themselves? So what I always do, it's not like I'm expecting a man to pay my bills. If you really are interested in me, just try and pay for the first bill at least. And if it's going to be a long-term thing, of course I won't expect you to be paying for like forever, but at some point of the relationship, I'm going to chip in and also pay for the bill. But for the first impression, just try, okay? If you're an Austrian or German or European guy who wants to date a black woman, there's no way you're going to call a woman on a date and then you let them pay their bill, or even for your own bill. And if you're a woman who wants to date or who is dating, don't pay for a man their bill, for the first bill at least. Don't do that. It's just, no, don't do that. Hotel mama. Some of you are familiar with the word hotel mama. If you are not familiar with the word, hotel mama simply means that mama does your laundry, mama cooks, mama cleans the house, mama goes shopping, mama does this, mama does that. So in Austria, you find that some men, mostly men, actually, I don't know many women who are in their 30s or 40s or 50s who are living with their parents. But men, you find them that even in their 40s, 50s, living with their parents. Like, dude, and you want to date? Who wants to date a 40-year-old man who is living with their parents? Like, I don't get this. As an African woman, I totally don't get this. And if you are a European and you are living with your parents, or you have friends living with their parents, this is crazy for us. This is not normal. Like, how can you be in your 30s, 40s, 50s? Like in Kenya, mostly after high school, you find young people, early 20s, they're already moving out. They're going to look for their lives. But here, hotel mama. They stay with their parents as long as they can. And I don't think that, it's not that they can't afford living alone, because getting a job in Austria is not that hard. And mostly if you are Austrian or if you are from the European Union, you will always get a job. I guarantee you. Not unless you don't want to work. Because there is this AMS where you go to and you just take your CV and they look for you a job. So I don't understand why people in their 30s, 40s, 50s, they live with a mama. You find that a man is old enough to be living by themselves, but they don't. So mama does this, mama does this, mama pays the bill, mama does everything. So And you find that such a man wants to date, honestly speaking. Seriously, I'm not settling down for that man. Because you find that most of them, they can't even cook, they can't do their laundry. It's like they are totally dependent on the mama. So you find that these men are so much dependent, they can't get their own lives. And there are shared apartments, there are social apartments where you get an apartment from the government. And from my experience, these apartments, you don't even pay the caution, and the rents are much cheaper compared to if you are renting from a private person. So you can't tell me that you can't afford an apartment as a 40-year-old. Get some job and get your life. Stop living with your mama. Aye. And then you find that these kind of men, that their mothers are extremely friendly. I don't have experience in this, but I know of people, when you are trying to get to know each other, they introduce you to their family. The family are extremely nice to you because they know this is a load you don't want to carry forever. So they will be nice to you because they know they will not be having this load anymore because they are giving it to somebody else. So if you come to Europe, please don't settle for such a man. If a man wants to date, they should have their shit together. Saying that they live in a familial house. Familial house is like a family house where you find that they fully furnished at the ground floor, and then on the first floor we find that it's also fully furnished for another person or for another family, and on the third floor also the same. So you find that families hold together. I think the idea is just good, but some men just misuse it because they don't want to get independent. And their mama boys, the mamas are also supporting it. I mean, everybody should live their lives, but I think it's just kind of crazy. The shops are closing on Saturday at 6 p.m. If you haven't done your shoppings, then till Monday morning you are going to go without food. So literally what happens is most shops, supermarkets, and all the other shops like clothing shops and so on, they close they close at 6 p.m. So you have to be doing your shoppings either during the week or till Saturday at that time. And if you haven't done your shopping, then it's your own problem. There are some places where the shops open even on Sunday, but for a particular time. And in Vienna, you'll definitely find some shops that opens. I know that there's a Billa in Prater, and then there's a Spar in Akaha, in the hospital that opens. I mean, in Vienna, you'll find a couple of shops that open on Saturday, on Sunday. But if you live outside Vienna, also in Salzburg, there's a Billa that opens for a couple of hours on Sunday. But if you want to do your shopping, you better do it during the week. Like where the tourists mainly go to, you find that they also shop for a couple of hours on Sunday. But we in Kenya, we are used to it like you can go shopping anytime you want. Like the shops are open till 9 o'clock even on Sunday. But if you come here, you're gonna get hungry. So and also in the main train stations, you'll always find some shop that's open. And also in the petrol stations, there are shops that open, but they are a bit expensive, of course. So do your shoppings during the week. Another thing is that men do help in household and also in childcare. Like when I came as an au pair, they had small kids. They had a kid who was like 2 years old, and the kid was not like sleeping through in the night. So you find that the man, he has his days where he wakes up at night. I mean, the woman was, both of them were working, so you find that the woman can't be waking up every day, so they have to help each other. So you find that the man, he has his days where he wakes up at night if the kid has to be chained or to take the kid back to sleep. So they really do help. Even in household, they cook, they do the dishes, they clean the house. So it's like it's helping each other. And I know in Kenya, some men really do help nowadays. It's changing. Also in the childcare, some men are really helping. They're really doing great. But in my time when we were growing up, or when I was living in Kenya, you would see that the woman would be doing everything, from the washing, from cooking, childcare. Like, the woman does a lot of stuff. Even if she's working, like, she comes from work and still have to do the cooking. In Austria, you find that they help each other. Not always, but like 80% or 90%. So I think that is something that really, it was kind of a shock, but a good shock. Another thing is that people call themselves with a first name. So when I came, the kid was like 5 years and he's shouting his mother's name like, Charlotte, Charlotte. I'm like, what's happening? Because in Kenya, you don't call your mom like Monica. I mean, you call them mama, or you call them mama so and so. But when I came, I was like, the kid is 5 years old and they're calling their mama with their first name. I'm like, what's going on here? But you just come to get to know that it's pretty normal. Even at work, you have some people who are older than you. Even the doctors, when they allow it to you, you just call them with their first names. There is a polite form, Sie, and an informal Du. Like, you, Sie, you, Du, you. So Sie is like when you meet somebody on the street or somebody you don't know, you just want to talk to them in a polite form. If you are speaking French or Dutch, you will know this already. But in English or in Swahili, we don't have the polite form of the you. It's just you, Nawele. So, and another thing is the title. Like, these people, they learn, they study, and they have a title. Let's say like somebody is a doctor or an engineer. So when you read their names, I'm working with people, so I have to call names a lot. So when you read the names, you'll see that Dr. So and so. And you have to read it with the title. You can't just call a doctor like Mr. So and so. You have to call him Dr. So and so. And it's a big thing. The title thing it's a big thing in Austria. Even recently, I was talking to my colleague and just asking, and then she told me that nowadays it's even better, because earlier on, like a couple of years ago, if you are married to like a doctor, then you automatically get the doctor title. So let's say that you are married to a doctor, and then they will call you Dr. So and so. So I'm like, what in the hell is going on? Like, a doctor, let's say a man or a woman, and then the woman will be called Mrs. Doctor just because the husband is a doctor. It was kind of flashing. So she was like, it's getting better with time. And they even write this in the passport. Like, some people have like 3 or 4 titles, like doctor. So you're like, what? But it's a thing in Austria. And I personally, my experience, I find it difficult to make friends to the locals, like to the Austrians themselves. I have many friends who are foreigners, but I just find it kind of difficult to be a friend with a local, because I really don't know. I don't have the reason behind it. It's just so difficult. But you find that interacting with people from other nations, like from the East Europe or from Asia or fellow Africans, it's much easier. than making friends to the locals. I really don't know why, because maybe they just different. I don't know. I don't want to ask an Austrian how much they earn. It's not a thing here. You don't ask somebody how much they earn. It's okay to ask, like, what are you doing? What's your job? What are you doing in your job? But you don't ask them, like, how much do you earn? I mean, in Kenya, you just ask them. Even if they are your sister or whatever, you don't ask them, like, how much do you earn? No. It's like impolite to do that. So when you come over here, don't do that. So my experience as a black person in Austria. Being black in Austria is, you look different, you have different hair, and the people are curious, some are rude, some are just being nasty, but in general, I think it's just more of the curiosity than being racist. I mean, they are racist. I have experienced racism a couple of times, and mostly I think it's they are staring at you because maybe you have a different hairstyle, or like mine. When I walk like in Salzburg, you will be getting these stares, like people are just like turning, even people are driving and they're like, so I'm wondering, like, what's wrong with you people? I think because they're just curious. Because earlier when I first came, I thought that they were being mean. But what I came to do is like to start a conversation with this person. Like if you're waiting for the bus, and then there's this lady, she used to look at me like every morning. I would stand there, like she'd see me every day, and literally every day stare at me like yesterday. So one day I just struck a conversation with her, and she was really nice. She was just curious. She asked me so much about my hair, and I was like, okay, so she was not even being mean or anything. She's just curious, but they don't feel free to ask you because they don't know. Maybe they don't want to appear mean or something. They don't want to ask you. Experienced racism quite a number of times. Like one day I was on the street just walking, and then this old lady, I think she was walking next to me, and then she's like, "Nigger, go back to your home." I'm like, excuse me? You first go to Kenya and or Africa and bring all those white people living there, then you tell me to go back home. And I even spoke to her in German, like in dialect. I told her, "Da bin ich daheim und ich gehe nirgendwo." Like, I'm here at home and I'm not going anywhere. So I was like, if you want to leave because of me, well and good, you leave. But I'm home and I'm not going anywhere. Like, you just have to be rude to them. And I told her even worse words that I'm not going to say here. So if you experience something like that, at the beginning you might not know how to react, but with time you just get like thick shells to react to the racist. So there's another one time I was working with my ex in Vienna, and then we just left our home. So there's come this man, a group of 3 men, and then I just hear something like, I just hear them talking, and then I hear the word nigger. And then I just turn, I'm like, excuse me, what did I just hear? And then he repeats it. I'm like, I was going crazy. My ex was like kind of a polite, gentle, and he would just like assume, and me, I'm like, no, you're not calling me a nigger on the streets, and I let you go like that. So he was like, he had one leg long and the other one was shorter. I'm sorry for this. So I'm like, look at you, you are crippled and calling me nigger. I told him more than that. I can't be mean. I don't tolerate racism. I tolerate so much stuff, but racism is a no-no for me. So the thing is, I didn't even know that he was my neighbor, because that is how life in the city is. You don't know your neighbor. So one day I'm just on the window, I'm just looking out, the weather is nice, and then I see him coming, and then I'm like, this is the idiot who called me nigger. So I go to the tap in the kitchen and bring some water with a jug. So he walks past my window like this. I'm like, I just pour it on his head. And I did this like, I think 3 or 4 times. And the 5th time he saw me on the street, he literally apologized. And I was going to do this as long as I see him, because he had to pass through the window. And I was doing this every single time I saw him. So he literally just came and said, I'm so sorry, that was mean of me, it shouldn't be like that, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, idiot. So he apologized. That's when he did that, I just left the case like that. But I don't let somebody do that to me. Another case of racism that I experienced was in the hospital, and that is like for one time ever since I've been working in the hospital. So there was this dude, there was this guy. I think he was psychologically, he had something. So like he was a mean person. He was mean to everybody, and to me it was even worse. So he came to the hospital, and we already knew him, in fact, and my colleagues are like, Mercy, don't go to this part, as in, even if he rings the bell, don't go to that room. And he said okay. And then one day he was in the hospital and my colleagues were eating. I'm like, it's okay, I'll just go. It's just one time. I'll just go see what he wants, and then I come and tell my colleague. So I get there, and he's like, boom, because he got operated, and when the patients are operated, the same day they get food like in the evening and not lunchtime. So he's like, I'm hungry, and I literally just try to explain that it's not good when you eat now, blah, 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 because of this and this. And he's like, what do you mean? You throw food away and kids in Africa are dying of hunger? I'm like, what? I literally screamed in that room. There were other 2 patients lying there, and I was just getting out of myself. I'm like, are you kidding me? So I'm literally screaming. Like, I didn't know how to act professionally, because if he's not acting his age, then I'm not gonna act like a professional. So I scream and then bang the door behind me, and I'm just like literally shivering, and I'm going crazy at this time. So my colleagues asked me what happened, and I can't even talk at this time. So they give me time. They tell me just go and sit down, blah blah blah. And then I sit down and rest. And later on, I told them what happened, and they called the doctor, told him what happened. We had to write like everything that happened on that day, and then. So the doctor usually came on Thursday. On Thursday he used to come, and he literally came the next day, because he couldn't tolerate such a thing. So my boss and the doctor, and they had already made a decision. I didn't know what they talk about. So we go to the patient, and the doctor talks to him and just tell him like, we don't want to see you in this hospital ever again. The patient was to go home the next day, but they were like, pick your stuff and just leave and never come to this hospital ever again. So he was like, he was forbidden to come in the hospital. I'm like, yeah, bingo. Because such a thing is intolerable. And the doctor and the other nurses, they're like, we're so sorry, you have to go through this, blah, blah, blah. But I think that the fact that he wasn't allowed to come in the entire hospital, I think it was like justice for me. I think those are the only 3 times I faced like literally racism in my entire life in Austria. And I had this friend, which we used to go to school together, and she told me about hers too. So we go to school together, we go for practicals, we work in the hospital, and this friend of mine, she's not speaking like perfect Dutch, like she speaks broken Dutch, if I can say it like that. And I think that as long as you can communicate, like they understand you and you understand them, I think that's okay, because otherwise she wouldn't have been accepted in the school in the first place. So she goes to work as usual, and then they tell her, this is what she told me. I wasn't there at the time, so I can't. I'm just gonna say what she said. She told me. She's like, they tell her like, why don't you just take a job for cleaning? Like, you don't speak good German. I'm like, you let them speak to you like that, and what was your reaction? Like, I did nothing. I'm like, are you crazy? Like, she's telling me this at home, and I'm literally going crazy. Like, you don't talk to a person like that, even if she doesn't speak perfect German. It's not a reason to belittle them. And then another thing she told me is that she was working as a nurse, as a home nurse. I don't know what it's called. It's in German. It's called like Hauskrankenpflege. So it's a situation where you go from one apartment to the other, or from one home to the other, helping those who need help as a nurse. So one day she rings the bell, and then when she gets at the door, the man opens and is like, "Scheiß Nigger, ich will dich nicht sehen." Like, nigger, I don't want to see you, and like closes the door. I'm like, and what was your reaction? I mean, to me, I would go crazy. Like, I won't even be coming to that person again. What I know. So she's like, I did nothing. I begged him to open. I'm like, really? He calls you a nigger, and then you begged him to open so that you can help him? I'm like, if it was me, I would. Okay. And then, yeah. Another topic is the hair. Kann ich deine Haare anfassen? Wie wäschst du die Haare? Ist das deine echte Haare? Like, can I touch your hair? Is this your real hair? How do you wash it? Do you use a normal shampoo? I'm like, As a black person, you get to hear these questions like all the time. And they're always running to your hair, touching your hair. Like, can I touch? Like, they don't ask and wait for you to answer them. They just start like, can I touch your hair? How do you wash your hair? So even when I was working in this hospital, and every time, as Africans, we have like I have like every 4 to 5 weeks a new hairstyle, and every single time they were like, wow, like, you have a new hairstyle again. I'm like, you people are going to get used to this sometimes, because it was getting too much for me. Like, every 4 weeks I come with a new hairstyle, and like, wow, you have a new, and it's always the same people. So get used to it and get over it. I mean, okay. So they were like, oh, how do you wash your hair? I'm like, okay. I get under the shower, turn it on, take a shampoo, pour it on my hair, and wash it. How do you wash yours? I'm like, what kind of question are these? Like, just because it has a different texture, it doesn't mean like you wash it a different way. Like, think, use your head. Of course, I don't say this, but sometimes if you get this question like 100 times in a year, it gets annoying. So that's the story for the hair. And then I remember when I was in school, and then I had cut my hair. I had short hair, and then for the second year, I come with braids in class, and then I hear the neighbor asking another lady like, "Haben wir eine neue Kollegin?" Like, do we have a new colleague? So I turn around, I'm like, hey, you don't know me anymore. Because she didn't know it was me. And this was really genuine. It was really funny. We laughed about it. So she's like, she thought it was another black lady. So you get to see such stuff like a lot when you're in Austria. Okay, that was my story time for today. I hope you enjoyed it. There's still so much I can share about my experience here, but I'm gonna keep it short because the weather is now nice outside and we're gonna do something. So thank you for keeping tuned in to Huku Austria, your number one diaspora channel, and this was your number one host, MercywaAustria. Subscribe my video, share it with the others, and I'll see you on the next video. And as usual, nawapenda wote.